Now, when we think of SEO, we often think of the SEO playbook being content and links. Content and links are very important, and they're really the blocking and tackling of doing an SEO campaign, along with keyword research, competitive research, these types of things. Now, what's really important with our content strategy is the organization, and the organization that is critical to creating our link building campaign and making sure it's in sync with our link building and our content campaign. So we want both campaigns to benefit one another. We want our content to help out with our linking efforts, and our linking efforts to be directed into our deep content instead of just our homepage or instead of just our basic pages. We want to deep link into different areas of our site with our linking. So this is important to consider when creating the information architecture, when creating the content, when going out and soliciting links to our individual content. Despite my best efforts here, it's sometimes difficult to explain exactly what an information architecture or virtual information architecture is. The very best way is to look at one. This is probably the best example of a search engine information architecture, or what I'd call a virtual information architecture, that I've ever seen in visual form. This is courtesy of Webmaster World and Brett Tapke, and it essentially explains that your homepage, you have the most global link popularity, you can rank for the most things, but it's also the most broad. You have it's much more difficult to do calls to action on very specific phrases, whereas the further you get down the information architecture, the longer tail phrases you have, the more you can target specifically to those targeted terms with your calls to action. It's also what's going to convert the best. On a smaller site, it's not going to be as large of a deal, but on a very large site, the fifth tier there is where the money is. Those are the 2 to 4 word phrases that are going to draw people in from the search engines and ultimately convert. So the highest volume phrases at that level, we want to kind of move those up the information architecture and link to those 5th level pages from our homepage or from a category down. And working within that information architecture is very important. So now that we understand the concepts of what information architecture is, we've seen how to lay one out, we're going to talk about how to actually create your information architecture. So this is generally my approach, is taking an Excel spreadsheet, and this was done for Brainwave Toys. We did titles and URL, meta description, breadcrumb path, and then you can see with the little red pink area, we also included which areas we were going to robots.txt. We had our site, but those pages, that, as it were, educational toys, 35 millimeter camera with a flash, we already have a page for a 35 millimeter camera without a flash. We probably don't need both. So we're going to exclude that one somehow with robots.txt or no follow or some of the other techniques we'll look at later. Now, it's important to lay out your entire site. You can do this in Excel, you can do this with a flow chart, you can do it in a lot of different ways, but it's important to have this structure before you start doing link development. You go from doing your keyword research and information architecture together to create this spreadsheet, to create this flow chart, to ultimately have that accessible for when you go to do link development and content development, to fill in those areas and to deep link to the areas that you can be the most competitive with. So we'll combine our COB analysis or competitive analysis that we look at later in the curriculum with our information architecture to determine where a page falls within that virtual information architecture, so you can be competitive with your search engine optimization tactics and pick phrases that you can be realistically competitive for. So as we move from research to implementation, we have to consider exactly how our internal anchor text is going to read and how we're going to link from different places. So our homepage will always link to our 2nd tier and probably some of our 3rd and 4th tier areas, as we saw in the search engine theme pyramid slide, and we'll link down to different levels from our homepage, from our subpage, and determining this is the actual implementation of information architecture. You're going to want to make sure that you use alt text in your navigational images. This is important in telling the search engines what the page is with internal anchor text. A little less valuable than it used to be, but still a good criteria to hit on. And use full keywords in the footer. Don't just say home, say online education and degrees at collegedegree.com. This type of internal linking really helps to explain to the search engines what your site is about and what different pages within your site are all about. Using these keywords instead of home tells the search engine that your home page is about a Bronx law firm or a civil law firm from the Bronx at the subpage level, and using these keywords in the alt text is the same as using them in text. Basically, it's telling the search engine what the page is about when you use internal linking for this purpose. There is a balance and trade-off of SEO and usability. They're really one and the same. You really want to make your site usable to your users, accessible to people, but also take full advantage of telling the search engine these are the keywords that are appropriate to this page. If you're linking across topics from the body copy, this is the most effective place. Most of what the search engines deem your page about will come from internal links from within your body copy rather than from the navigation. It's still important to use keywords in your navigation, but it's really important within the block of copy on your page to link to the different areas across your site and to spread internal links to deeper pages on your site, especially with a larger site. On smaller sites, this is less of a big deal, but as your site gets bigger, it really becomes important to distribute link equity and anchor text. I guess we could call it anchor text equity throughout the site and tell the search engine this is the keywords that should be associated with this page. This is the keywords that this page is about. So next I want to look at some considerations for information architecture for e-commerce sites. With an e-commerce site, you have a structure similar to this where you have a home page, category links, then down to product links. Now your products are what are actually going to sell. Sometimes people search for categories or types of products, but often the highest converting phrases are going to be product names, and therefore we need to make sure that those are where we're targeting our efforts, as well as the generic phrases that will refer more generic kind of traffic. So whatever is linked the most, you can see the internal linking structure of an e-commerce site is kind of across the board. There's probably a standard to it, but within your body copy and using some of the techniques we've learned about internal linking, you can link from your home page down to deeper levels to link to some of your top selling products. So as with most things, the Pareto principle applies that probably 80% of your sales are going to come from 20% of your products. So you don't want all of your other 80% of your products getting the same type of link equity as the ones that are really your top big sellers. You want to be competitive in the places that you're most likely to sell products and most likely to have the most margins. So therefore, you're going to be linking to your top products from your home page and probably from every other page. You want to utilize that run of site linking and or site-wide linking, and make sure that you're linking to those top products from every page so that you distribute that link equity on down the line to that product level, since otherwise those products are going to be at the bottom of the information architecture. Now, generally, an e-commerce store links from every page to the privacy policy. Now, do you really need to have a privacy policy indexed, or is that what we call a French fry page? Is that something that doesn't really have a lot of value from an external search perspective? I think it qualifies as a French fry page. And what is a French fry page, you're probably asking yourself about now? It's a page with little value that dilutes link popularity. You're going to say, don't index these pages because there's not a lot of value to them. A French fry page is anything with low or unique content value or low nutritional value is how we get the term French fry page. And Tedster from Webmaster World gets credit for coining this term. I thought it was a great way to label pages that are printable pages, that are sizes and colors on t-shirts, add-on pages like cell phone covers, things that people would never really search for from an external site perspective. So therefore, they don't need to be in the site index. Tag pages was an example we looked at in blogs. So keep these French fry pages out of the index. And the techniques that we use to keep the French fry pages from getting indexed include robots.txt, You would put everything in a folder and disallow that folder, and that's the easiest way to do it with robots.txt. Robots.txt is the best solution to this, by the way. There's other techniques that we'll look at, but robots.txt is really your best solution. And if you plan for these pages and you identify your French fry pages when you're creating your information architecture, when you're organizing your site, you'll be able to plan for this and have a much easier time utilizing these techniques and blocking these pages than you will if you try to go back and retrofit it after you've created your site. So another technique that we can use is just pass no juice. You do this for a privacy page, maybe not for an about page. For other pages that are low value French fry pages, we're going to use robots.txt, no index, rel no follow. All of these are going to be effective in different levels for keeping the search spiders from indexing those pages and keeping those French fry pages out of the index. Really, really important because they dilute your link popularity, they cause search engine bloat, search engine index bloat, and you just have way too many pages in the search engines that you don't need there. So use these techniques, organize your content, and understand which pages are of low value from an external site perspective. One very good way you can do this is with breadcrumbs, and breadcrumbs really line up with the information architecture. A good rule of thumb for on-page optimization is using your breadcrumbs in reverse in your title tag. It doesn't have to be exactly in reverse, but you can see with the example given here, there's some multi-25 C7 replacement lamps, a very specific thing that falls within C7 bulbs and cords and outdoor Christmas lighting. And you can see how that's very structured and very much a part of a very defined taxonomy and information architecture. And that lines right up with the breadcrumbs, so it's a usability function. Your users know exactly where they are within the site, as well as the search engine spider function. They know that they're 4 levels deep in your site and that replacement bulbs fall underneath the C7 bulbs and cords category. So it's very, very useful to both users and search engines to understand where in your site they are. The first concept I want to start with is an idea called keyword cannibalization. And what keyword cannibalization is essentially having too many pages with the same keywords in the title tags, in the body copy, and confusing the search engines by throwing all of these pages into the search engine index and having your pages essentially eat themselves to survive. You have all these pages competing for the same keywords in the search engines, and you're leaving it to the search engines to figure it out. So while relevancy is their goal, they might not always send your users to the best landing page possible, and that's just a shame because you're going to sacrifice your conversion. Keyword cannibalization kills conversion. I appreciate the alliteration in this, but I'm going to say it again. Keyword cannibalization kills conversion. And the reason for this is because if you have all these pages competing for the same phrases, the search engines are going to pick which one they want there. If you specifically target one specific page per specific keyword set, if you have page-specific unique concepts, and you're organized properly, and you're distributing link equity, and you're doing your external link building to deep pages of your site in the right manner, you won't end up with bad landing pages. You'll end up with a structure that is very organized, and you'll link build, and you'll send people to the right area. You only get 2 search results. If you have 500 pages competing for the same search result all over your site, who knows what you're going to end up with? And we'll show an example of just how bad that can get in just a moment. So pay real close attention to your site structure and make sure to disallow some areas of your site. If you have multiple pages that say exactly the same thing, pick one. You don't need all 10 pages. Exclude the rest, and you'll keep the quality of your site index higher, and you'll be much less likely to experience this keyword cannibalization. So I'm going to use an example query to demonstrate just what can happen if you end up with bad landing pages due to keyword cannibalization. The query we're going to use here is Asia plane tickets, and we'll see that Expedia comes up in the paid search. So we're going to pick on them a little bit, and we're going to pick on Boots and All a little bit, who's actually done a fairly decent job of targeting. They could certainly do better, but we'll look at both of these for the example of Asia plane tickets. Now, we'll see that if we look at Expedia's site and we do a site command, there's almost 1,000 pages that have the word Asia plane and tickets or some combination thereof. Now, if I'm searching, I certainly don't want the book flights to Detroit page. I'm trying to go to Asia, not to Detroit. So, and there's 100 other pages, or 1,000, nearly 1,000 other pages that could cannibalize this page as well. We want the page on traveling to Asia, and they do have a page on traveling to Asia. That's what should ultimately come up. And if they didn't have this cannibalization, that would be the ideal landing page and offer much better conversion rates to the user, and a much better user experience and much better conversion rates to their company. So when we look at Boots and All, we see this is the first page that comes up in their search result. When we did that search, this is page number 1, and this is what comes up. You have 2 results in the search engines. This is one of them. I don't even see Asia anywhere on this page. I see international airfare, and I see that they do book flights, so it's fairly relevant, but there's nothing about Asia. I'm looking specifically for Asia, so there's very high likelihood that I'm going to click back. Now, their second landing page is a little bit better. It does have Asia airfare on it. This could certainly be catered much more to someone looking specifically for Asia plane tickets, but at least there is some indication that I found what I'm looking for, so I'm less likely to bounce off this page. All of this ties back to creating your information architecture. If there's 1,000 pages on your site, you need to be responsible for which one the search engine is going to pull up. Their goal is relevancy, but that doesn't mean that they always accomplish that goal. You are in charge of spoon feeding those bots. As we established in the earlier video, bots are intelligent, but they're lazy. They don't always do the best job at finding the most relevant page. You need to spoon feed those spiders. You need to spoon feed the search engines and tell them exactly where you want them to go. And you do that by disallowing them from certain areas and from distributing your link equity, your firepower, to the appropriate areas, and building content, building title tags, being consistent in your overall SEO strategy, both in terms of content, link building, and internal links, all to one specific page, at most 2 specific pages, because that's what's going to come up in the search engines. You don't need 100 pages for a single set of keywords. So I'm going to pick on Expedia just a little bit more here. This is the landing page they use for their paid search campaigns. When I search for Asia plane tickets, this is the result I get from their paid search campaign. Now, while this is a good landing page in terms of I can do what I came to do and I can book travel, I don't see anything about Asia here. On this page, however, I see all kinds of wonderful Asia information. Now, a combination of these 2 pages would probably be the ideal, but we need to create that master wonderful converting page that's relevant to our top level query and make sure that's the one that we're targeting with our SEO efforts. In the same way that they want to have the best landing page from a paid search campaign, you want to make sure that you pick your best 2 pages on your site for a specific query and block the rest of them. Keep the rest of the pages from coming up, and make sure you're distributing that link equity appropriately so that you're getting the proper 2 landing pages. Your link equity is that firepower. Your link equity is going to determine which pages out of your 100 pages comes up for a search result. And the higher in your architecture it is, the more likely it is to come up for that search query. So if you have your homepage ranking for Asia plane tickets, you may get decent conversion rates, but if your Asia plane tickets page is ranking for your Asia plane tickets query, that conversion rate is going to improve. So in summary, you need to be consistent to avoid keyword cannibalization. Make sure you target just a few pages, and this will keep you from getting those bad landing pages indexed. Make sure your information architecture and your overall SEO strategy targets specific pages for specific queries, and you'll avoid this problem of keyword cannibalization killing conversion. Another common problem created by weblogs is the problems associated with tag clouds. Now, it's good to tag your content and know what it's about and categorize it, but tags can create all kinds of extraneous pages that add to search engine bloat. While it can be used as a long tail strategy for high link popularity sites, it's generally not a good strategy for a site that's just starting off or someone of medium link popularity. Now, users may navigate these, and so there is arguments for tag clouds, but you want to make sure that all of these pages created by tag clouds are not getting indexed by the search engine, because they will add to that keyword cannibalization. They create all kinds of duplicate content. They dilute the link popularity of your site. They inflate your site index. And the solution to this is just put a robots.txt on your tag pages. Make sure that the search engines aren't seeing them. You can leave them for your users, but it's not something that you want indexed by the search engines. Now, I'm not going to touch on duplicate content all that much in this video, but when it comes to finding duplicate content in your information architecture, one way to go about it is Aaron Wall has a tool at training.seo book called the Website Health Check that will help determine if you have title tags that are duplicate throughout the site. So if you have 100 pages that have the same title tag and the same keywords, you're going to run into that keyword cannibalization. Another tool that you can use to do something similar is called Xenu Link Sleuth. It's kind of the old standby of SEOs. These two tools are going to help you at least find and start identifying some of that duplicate content, so you can implement some of these techniques and remedy some of the duplicate content in information architecture that causes that keyword cannibalization. The final technique I'm going to share here, or the final two techniques. First one is with seasonal and expiring content, never ever delete this content. Job boards are notorious for this. Now, if there's a link to this job post of a director for search engine optimization at MTV Networks, this post is no longer there. I can almost guarantee it's no longer there. So there's probably other ones, and there's other in the same category. They should fully be utilizing the links to the old expired content and 301ing this content to a directory, to an archive directory. They don't have to keep necessarily this content around, but they at least need to redirect that link equity, because it's still going to be beneficial to their overall global link popularity. This is where having a information architecture in place is hugely critical, because you can redirect this up one level. This would be the job category, or the specific job. The job category, this link equity could be redirected to, instead of just deleting this content and never seeing those links again. Those links are never going to do benefit if this page is deleted in 404s. So with seasonal expiring content, make sure you have a strategy based on your information architecture to redirect that link equity from expired content to the new archived version of the content. The final technique final tip for information architecture creation is promoting features. If you have recent news or something that's upcoming, make sure you're promoting this seasonal news a bit early. Link to it on your sitemap, link to it on your homepage. The first person to get indexed for new content is going to get the rankings. Early promotion leads to early rankings, and which in turn ultimately leads to more links as people are out researching the topic. So be quick to new topics, be ahead of the curve, and have a solution for getting this content indexed by linking to it from your sitemap, linking to it run of site, whatever you need to do, but incorporate it into your information architecture so that you're getting your new content indexed early and often, so that when it hits mainstream, you're there where you need to be.